Okay, so you've got that EQAI morning briefing for September 20th, but who really has time to go through all of it? Connect all the dots between a rate cut and, some stock going up, or why Dr. Martens is suddenly a hot topic.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It is. That's why we're here. We're diving into today's briefing, pulling out what you need to know, and more importantly, what it means for you.
Exactly. Think of it as your own personal cheat sheet.
Love it. So let's start with this interest rate news. The Fed just did something that has everyone talking. They cut rates again, and it's not exactly a small move.
Right, a 50 basis point cut.
Which, for those of us who don't speak fluent finance, that translates to...
A 0.5% decrease.
Okay, so maybe not huge in the grand scheme of things, but in the financial world, that's a pretty aggressive move. And naturally, it's causing quite a stir.
It is. We're seeing some mixed reactions for sure.
Yeah, the EQAI briefing mentions Bank of America is waving a little bit of a red flag here. They're worried this could be adding fuel to a fire, potentially inflating a bubble.
Yeah, and let's be honest, nobody wants to see another bubble burst. That's never a fun time.
Never fun. But then on the other side, you've got companies like Nvidia, the AI giant. They're riding this wave of optimism. Their stock, and along with a lot of other chip manufacturers, is actually rallying.
It is interesting to see those different reactions play out.
So how do we make sense of all of this? It's like two completely different takes on the same event. What's the real story?
Well, it boils down to short-term gains versus the long game. Bank of America makes a valid point. Cutting rates can boost the economy quickly, but if it's done too hastily, well, it can create instability down the road. It's like, imagine you've got an overinflated tire. I need to let some air out, right? But if you do it too fast,
boom,
you're going to have a flat.
Exactly. On the flip side, though, certain sectors like tech, especially AI, they thrive on these lower interest rates. Makes borrowing cheaper, which can fuel growth and innovation. That's why companies like Nvidia are probably feeling pretty good right now.
So it's all about perspective, I guess. Where you sit determines what this rate cut means for you.
It does. Which actually reminds me of something else that caught my eye in the briefing. It really plays into this whole idea of who you can trust when things feel uncertain.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more. So IBD and MarketWatch, they just came out with their annual survey. They rank the most trusted financial companies, based on consumer feedback and data. This is like the 5th year they've done it.
So it's not just some random list. It actually holds some weight.
Exactly. And in times like these, when the market can feel a little like a roller coaster, knowing who you can trust, well, that's invaluable.
Couldn't agree more. So who made the cut? Who are these trustworthy financial gurus?
Well, we don't want to steal their thunder. You'll have to check out the full list yourself. But what's really interesting is that the companies at the top, they share some core traits. Things like transparency. They've got a proven track record and a commitment to ethical practices.
So it's not just about flashy marketing or big promises. It's about walking the walk. Consider this your friendly reminder, folks. Before you make that next big financial move, whether it's, switching banks or finally diversifying your portfolio, take a look at that survey, yeah? It might just give you some peace of mind knowing you're aligning yourself with the companies that others find trustworthy. All right, ready to switch gears a bit. The EQAI briefing also highlighted something kind of cool happening in the NFL. It's not even about the game itself, but it definitely says a lot about leadership, opportunity, breaking those barriers,
Oh, yeah, definitely. This weekend's Panthers-Raiders game, making history off the field.
For the first time ever, both teams are going to be led by female presidents, right?
That's right. Kristi Coleman for the Panthers and Sandra Douglass Morgan for the Raiders. Talk about smashing that glass ceiling.
Seriously. Makes you think about the bigger picture here. We're talking about leadership roles in a space that's, traditionally been dominated by men. And these women, they're paving the way for future generations, for other industries.
Absolutely. I mean, if it can happen in the NFL front office, it really makes you wonder what other doors are about to open up.
Right, totally. And it begs the question, is this like a turning point, a sign of real change that's going to stick? Or is this just, a one-off? What's going to take for this level of representation to become like the norm, not just in sports, but everywhere?
Such an important question. And it reminds us that progress, well, it's not always a straight line, is it?
Definitely not. Sometimes it comes in these bursts, these moments that really make you stop and think, okay, things are shifting.
For sure. Speaking of things that make you stop and think, did you see that stat in the briefing about retirement savings?
Yeah.
Seems a lot of people might be, well, underestimating how much they'll actually need.
Yeah, that was a little eye-opening. Like 64% of savers, they could be way off in their estimates. That's a lot of people.
It is. And it's a good reminder to really take a hard look at those retirement plans. Make sure they match up with, with how people are living today.
Absolutely. I mean, people are living longer, which is amazing. But it also means those savings have to stretch further. And then you've got healthcare costs, which, let's be real, those seem to outpace just about everything.
They do. And it's not just about longevity or, rising costs. It's life, right? You've got unexpected home repairs, a family emergency. Those curveballs can really throw a wrench in even the most, carefully crafted plans.
Totally. So what's the takeaway here? What should people be doing?
Simple. Don't rely on those old assumptions. That whole 20 years in your set idea. Yeah, that's probably not going to cut it. Take a fresh look at your plan, factor in these longer lifespans, those potential costs, and yeah, even those what-if scenarios. You'll thank yourself later.
I like it. Consider this your official nudge to dust off that retirement calculator and make sure you're really on track for the long haul. All right, ready for a quick change of pace? The EQAI briefing had a bunch of these little intriguing tidbits that I got to get your take on.
Hit me with them.
This first one is about space, the final frontier and all that. NASA just gave this company, Intuitive Machines, a huge contract, and their stock is going through the roof. So is space like the next big investment opportunity?
It's definitely got people talking, and for good reason. We're seeing a shift. Space isn't just about exploration anymore. It's becoming a business. Governments, private companies, everyone's looking at the moon even farther out, thinking about resources, research, even space tourism. It's wild.
Space tourism, can you imagine? Sign me up.
Right. I wouldn't tell anyone to put all their eggs in one basket, but the whole space sector, definitely something to keep an eye on.
Okay, next up. Apparently you can buy bonds for the Buffalo Bills' new stadium. Fans funding their team directly, that's interesting.
Right. It's a whole new level of fan ownership, not just buying a jersey or going to games, but actually owning a piece of the team's future.
Pretty cool. Yeah, and can you imagine the bragging rights if that stadium becomes legendary? Yeah, I helped build that. Okay, last one, Dr. Martens. The boots. Their stock took a hit after some big sale. What's going on there?
It's a head-scratcher for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Was it strategic? Or is demand for those iconic boots dropping? Time will tell, but it shows that even a big name like Dr. Martens has to keep up, Consumer tastes change, markets change.
Makes you think about all the stuff we buy every day. There's always a bigger story, right? Like,
yeah.
Am I just buying headphones or am I supporting some, manufacturing process, a whole business model?
Exactly. It's all connected. And the more we know, the better choices we can make as consumers, as investors. It matters.
Mindful shopping. I like it. Okay, before we wrap up, one last thing from the EQAI briefing that really stood out. Disney's ditching Slack, after that data breach. Cybersecurity is a big deal these days, but this really drives the point home.
For sure. In a world that's basically run on data, keeping that data safe is critical. It's like the new currency. Disney's move, yeah, it'll cause some headaches in the short term, but it shows they're taking it seriously, and we all should.
Makes you think, what's the fallout going to be from that breach down the line? So we've covered a lot of ground today, from interest rates to space and cybersecurity. If you had to boil it down, what's the one thing our listeners should take away from all of this?
I'd say it's the power of knowing your stuff. The EQAI briefing, it throws a lot at you, but it's not just about reading it. It's about using that information to make smarter decisions, for your money, your career, your life.
Knowledge is power, right? But you got to actually use it. It's like they say, knowledge without action is like a car without an engine. Looks nice, but ain't going anywhere.
Love that. And just as important as knowledge, curiosity. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Look at things from different angles, even question your own assumptions. That's how you grow.
Couldn't agree more. And that actually leads to my final thought for everyone today. We talked about those amazing women making history in the NFL. Got me wondering, what about all the other major sports leagues out there? What does leadership look like in those spaces? Globally, even. Something to think about, yeah.
Definitely. One story, one data point, it can spark a whole line of questions, and that's exciting. So yeah, to everyone listening, if something grabs your attention, don't just let it go. Dig in. You never know what you might find.
Well said. And there you have it, your EQAI morning briefing, all unpacked and ready for action. Remember, knowledge is power, especially in today's crazy world. Keep those questions coming. We'll be here to help you dive deeper. Until next time.